Hey friends, this is Tanya, and this is She's At It Again. Today we're making Greek macaroni and cheese, and I'm going to take you along on this. Can you really ever have too many varieties of macaroni and cheese? Today is my husband's birthday, and we're having friends over to join us for dinner tonight, and we're having grilled muffulettas and Greek macaroni and cheese. So it's going to be a Greek dinner tonight. I think muffulettas are Greek. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but this is loaded with feta cheese and tomatoes and spinach, and it is absolutely delightful. Super creamy, of course, but the ingredients are not hard to find, and it's got a lot of good spices in it that lend a lot of flavor to it. So join me as we make Greek macaroni and cheese, and I hope you like it. Okay, our macaroni is done. We've been cooking it, and I know this looks like overkill. I've got just this little amount of macaroni in this big giant pan, but because we're going to mix our ingredients in this big pan, that's why we have the big pan. All right, we're going to pour our, now this burner is still on, so the water is still nice and hot. We're going to put our fresh spinach directly into this pot. It's going to wilt pretty quick. The lid back on it. Well, actually I need to stir it in. That's why I have a little more water than what you would normally cook that much macaroni into. So just about the last 30 seconds or so of having it in this pan, you're going to pour your macaroni in there. Or I'm sorry, your spinach in there. I cannot talk and cook at the same time. It's not what I was made to do. I don't talk when I cook. But apparently I do now, just not correctly. Okay, that's wilted nicely. I'm going to turn the burner off. We're going to go over to the sink and drain this. So our spinach is wilted nicely, and my glasses are steamed up and I cannot even hardly see what I'm doing. But we'll get all this out there, and it's okay if a little bit of water remains in there because you're going to let this sit for a little while anyway while we mix up our other ingredients. All right, I'll take this back over here. Very good. All right, get my recipe here where I can see it. I've taken this recipe and reduced it a bit just because a full serving of it is just so huge. That's not something I need for dinner tonight, and I'd rather just tell you if you need a huge recipe of this, add about a third more of it because I'm using about 2/3 of the recipe. So in our blender, I have a Vitamix blender here, but if you have a regular blender, an immersion blender, whatever you have, just use that. We're going to put 1.5 cups of milk and 1/2 cup of olive oil in here. We're also going to put 4 teaspoons of lemon juice. And I need 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt. And that's our oven. It's ready. So I don't have to wait on that. 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt and a little over a teaspoon of pepper. I've written down 1 1/3 teaspoons of pepper. So that's about 1 1/3 teaspoons of pepper right there. Okay, here's where the goodness comes in. We're going to put a pound of feta in there. I buy just the chunk kind. I'll show you what the lid looks like. I'm hoping this gets in the picture here. This is what I buy if I'm at Costco or Sam's. I buy a different kind. They come in bigger packages, but I do not buy the crumbles, and I'll tell you why. Because they add, I think it's the crumbles that they add natamycin to. And you can Google natamycin all you want. From my understanding, and I'm not a physician, I'm not a scientist, but from my understanding, natamycin actually interferes. Like if you're taking an antibiotic, and I'm not, and I haven't in a long time, but if you're taking an antibiotic, natamycin actually interferes with that because it's a type of antibiotic, if you will, just in food form. So you'll see natamycin added to the ingredients of a lot of cheeses, and from what I understand, it is a mold inhibitor. But if you can get something that doesn't have it in it, I would say, why not? So apparently, when they turn it into crumbles, they need that mold inhibitor, but you don't if it's just in big chunks. I'd rather just break it up myself. Okay, we're going to turn the mixer on. I apologize for the loud noise. We're going to turn it on until it's a little bit smoother. All right. Now, let me turn my camera over to a different angle so you can see the center part of the island. All right, let's go with that. So I'm going to bring a hot pad over here. Make sure this is what I'm wanting in it. Yep, that's what I'm wanting in it. Man, I wish I had somebody else to do that part for me. That'd be great. Okay, here's my spoon. And it doesn't look like a lot in here right now, but that'll fit nicely in our pan. Today is my husband's birthday, and we've invited some friends over to have dinner with us, and we're having muffulettas, grilled muffulettas, and Greek macaroni and cheese, and some hummus and fresh vegetables. And I'm not sure yet what I'm making for dessert. I just hadn't decided, but I'll find something. Even if we have to cut up some bananas and get out the jar of peanut butter, we'll be good with that. Okay, so to the pasta, I have in here 2/3 of a teaspoon of rosemary, and I crushed it using a mortar and pestle. I just don't like the long needles of rosemary in it. If it's real super dry, it just looks like sticks in there to me. So I crushed it up a little bit with a mortar and pestle. So I have 2/3 of a teaspoon of rosemary, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. So we're just going to add that to it. To that, I'm also going to add about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. think I'm officially out of garlic in this jar, so good thing we have more. All right, now we're going to take our ingredients that we just mixed up in the mixer. Now, you're probably going to look at this, if you have a regular blender, which doesn't get as smooth as a Vitamix, unfortunately, I'm sorry to report. Vitamix is just fabulous. Blendtec or Vitamix is just like the lawnmowers of household blenders. They're just so good. So it's going to be super smooth. It's almost like a runny mayonnaise or a thick ranch dressing in here now. But if you have a regular blender and it looks lumpy, don't worry about it because it's all going to bake into the pasta. That's not going to be a problem at all. So just pour our ingredients from our blender into here. Was I saying mixer or was I saying blender? I'm telling you, this is probably not a good hobby for me if I can't talk and cook at the same time. This is not good. Especially if I don't have anyone around here to correct me. My husband gets the biggest kick out of the things I say on video, and he has to edit out because I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm saying one thing and obviously doing another, or holding an onion and calling it a potato, something like that. So, and he always says, "Did you see this?" I'm like, "I don't watch those videos. I'm the one that makes them. I don't need to go back and look at them." And nobody likes to hear or watch themselves on video, and I'm no different from anybody else. I don't like it, but that's the only way to get information out, so that's what I do. All right. Let's give this a stir. In this cup right here, I have 6 ounces of cherry tomatoes. These are little organic cherry tomatoes. If you can opt for organic cherry tomatoes, I would really encourage you to do that. I'm not recommending it, I'm just encouraging to do it. Anytime you can buy organic instead of buying something with pesticides, just cook smart, eat smart, and that's one of the smarter things that you could probably do for your body is just avoid any kind of extra toxins that they might have in something. So 6 ounces of cherry tomatoes, and I've just cut them in half, just like that. Super simple. And then I've taken a half a cup of black olives and just kind of rough chopped them. Some are in bigger chunks than others, and some of them are small. So we're going to add this to that as well. That is nice and runny. That spinach is just going to be perfect in there. All right, let's scoot this over. I don't want to mix up something and go, oh, I didn't even video. It's not even in camera shot. All right, let me get a spatula over here. My dogs can hear that noon siren they always do on Wednesdays here in our town just to test the tornado sirens. If you're from the South, you know what I'm talking about, but we have sirens that sound for 1 minute every Wednesday at noon. Everybody knows that they're going to go off unless there's a storm, and then they don't do that, which is probably a really good idea because people would panic. But the dogs are not real fond of that sound. I can hear it in the distance, but it's not super loud here. All right. Lay this in here so it won't splash. Oh, that fit perfectly. My friend Joan says that I'm spatial, and what that means is she can hand me a bowl of something and I'll know exactly what size container it needs to go in the refrigerator without spilling over or there being too much extra space in it. So if that's my one gift, I'm good with that. I don't really know what to do with that, but I guess I can fit things in a pan. Now, when I make a full recipe of this, you at least need a 9 by 13. But again, this is not a full recipe of this, so. container like this will be fine. All right, so I have freshly grated Parmesan cheese. I just grated this a while ago. This is Parmesan Reggiano, and it calls for about 1/3 cup. So I'm going to do just that. I'm not going to put all of it on here. I'll leave some on the table tonight for anybody to put on anything they want. And it may be this macaroni and cheese. They may decide to add more to it. We'll put that in a jar for later. And this is a mixture of a tablespoon each of rosemary, dried rosemary, because I don't have any fresh right now. I had a great rosemary bush out front, and I'd always go out there and pick rosemary, but I redid my flower bed last year and dug it up and thought I'd just plunk it somewhere else in the ground, and it said no, so I don't have that one. I just have 2 baby ones, and I'm not willing to cut the needles off of it yet, so, or the leaves is what they're called. All right, so this is just a mixture of a tablespoon each of dried parsley, dried rosemary, and dried thyme. And we're going to sprinkle this on the top. And it takes the whole thing. Now we're not having this until dinner tonight. Like I said, we've got friends coming over, but I want to bake this off because I don't want the liquid ingredients sinking to the bottom and just have dry macaroni on the top. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to bake it off today, middle of the day here, obviously at noon. And then when it comes out of the oven, I'll show you what it looks like. That way I don't have to get out the camera and everybody thinking they need to be in a video tonight when we're having dinner. I do that too much. People are getting sick of it. So we're going to avoid all that together. So I'm going to put this in the oven. We'll come back as soon as it's done and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we've been baking our Greek macaroni and cheese at 350 degrees, which I think is 176 Celsius. And it's been in there for about 25 minutes. Normally, if you're about to serve this immediately, you'd bake it for about 30 minutes, between 25 and 30. So this may be a little short of its full baking time, but I have to heat it up again tonight, so I don't want to overbake it. So we're going to get it out of the oven now. Okay, I'm going to get a spoon and just dig into the side of this so you can see what this looks like. Got our tomatoes in there. That's so pretty. Plated up, it looks really nice. Once this cools, it will firm up just a little bit, not so much to where you'll be able to slice it. But it's definitely going to be a little bit thicker than what it is now. But I just wanted you to see what this looks like when we take it out of the oven. So hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to sharing something else with you. Actually, probably sooner than I thought, because I think I've decided what to make for dessert tonight, but that'll be in the next video. So thanks for watching, guys.